All right, well, welcome this evening, guys. A slight change of plans. Today's video is on Lesson 2.5, but we're also going to streamline right into 2.6, because actually I think 2.6 is a lot more helpful, and it's going to be less confusing in terms of how we're going to go ahead and solve one-step equations. So today's lesson is solving one-step equations, and I don't believe I've had my current guest on a Course 1 video, so I'm Mr. Gunn, as always, and this is
Ben Gillig
from 7th grade. He's going to be helping me do your video tonight. So, very first thing we're going to do today is we're just going to review some properties, okay? And so, why did that stop? That's kind of weird.
You want to keep it going?
All right. So, we're going to review some properties. We have the identity property. Then there's two of them. They're with commutative properties. I really should put an S there. And the associative properties. Okay, so the identity properties, if we're talking about the additive identity, what can we add to things and not change it at all, Ben? What number do we add that doesn't really do anything to anything?
0.
Right, if we add 0. Okay? If we're multiplying, then we multiply by 1, and that isn't going to change anything. So that's the identity property. That's basically what it says. And these are reviewed in your textbook. You'll see them in class tomorrow on page 86 in section 2.5. Okay, and basically it says the identity property, if you add 0 to A, you get A. And if you multiply 1 times A, you get A. Now the commutative property is the one that starts with the word commute, okay, and that's the one for additive. It says things like 2 plus x is the same thing as x plus 2. In other words, we can switch the order and it doesn't matter. The same thing works for multiplication. 2 times x is equal to x times 2, okay? And the associative property, that's the hardest one. That's the one where you have to regroup the parentheses. So if I have x plus y in parentheses plus z, that's the same thing as x plus y plus z in parentheses. Okay, and so basically we regroup things, and it works for multiplication too. So if I have xy times z, that's the same thing as x times yz. Okay, that's the associative property. So make sure you know these properties. They are reviewed again in Lesson 2.5 because there isn't really a whole lot in 2.5. So you have these here. Study them, memorize them, make sure you're good with them. If you have questions on them, write them down. Do remember these for the quiz tomorrow. But what we're really interested in today is solving an equation. All right, so I'm going to write down an equation here. Let's see. Let's start with x plus 5 equals 12. And Ben actually just did this with me a couple days ago in his class. And so we're going to think of as an equation as a what? What was the analogy for that? Think of it as a
teeter-totter.
Right, like a teeter-totter or a seesaw on a playground. Okay? And if you do it right, a seesaw should be in perfect balance all the time. Okay? If it isn't, one side's going to go down and the other side's going to go up. If we have a balanced seesaw, though, it should be in perfect balance. So the stuff on the left side, right here, will exactly equal the stuff on the right side. And when we solve an equation, it's just like that. We want to keep the idea of, we're going to use the idea of opposites, and we want to keep the idea of balance. Whatever we do to one side, we're going to do the other. Now, to solve an equation, what that really means is what we want to do is we want to figure out what the value of x is in this equation. And when 2.5, what they basically have you do is just kind of use your number sense. And you can probably figure out what do you add to 5 to get 12. Well, that's not really the point. What I want to teach you, and the reason I'm skipping right ahead to 2.6, is I want to show you very carefully what we're going to do. And what we're going to do is to get rid of 5, we're going to subtract 5 pounds from the left side. So if you have a value x, and you add 5 and then take away 5, you're not really doing anything. You just get x. Now, can I do that to the left side, Ben, without doing anything over on the right?
No.
No, I've got to keep balance. So if I took 5 pounds off the left side, if I want to keep my balance, I also have to take 5 pounds off the right side. Okay? And when I do that, I'll get the solution. Let's revisit this. We don't normally draw teeter-totters, but that's the idea. So let's revisit this on the next slide. So here's the actual equation we were just solving. So the way I want you to show your work is write out the actual equation, okay? And I'm going to take that, whoops. That was a bad idea. Yeah. So, and I'm going to undo adding 5 by doing the opposite of it, which is subtract 5.
From both sides.
Yeah, from both sides to keep the balance, okay? And always you'll get something that cancels. So on this side I get x, and on the right side?
7.
I get 7. Now, always, 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 always check your work. So just see if x equals 7. If I put that back in the original equation, will it work?
Yep.
Sure. 7 plus 5 equals 12. So it checks. All right? So that's the idea of how we're going to solve equations. Now, we're not going to discuss whether or not you have to show work. You have to show work. You have to do all of what you see on the screen exactly the way you see it on the screen. You're going to copy down the original equation. You're going to very carefully show the opposite that you do on as Ben said, on both sides. You're going to show your answer, and you're going to be sure to check it. So that's it. This is the first solving of an algebraic equation, and this is really all there is to it. We're going to start kind of with some baby steps. So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple example problems. Suppose I had, and I'm sorry, I kind of wrote over myself. Yeah.
Solve and check.
Solve and check. The first one is going to be x plus 4.3 equals 9.1, and the second one?
W plus 1.18 equals 11 and 6.
11 and 6/10, or and actually, yeah, they're a little hard to see. Thanks for pointing that out, Ben. There's a decimal there, and there's a decimal there. So make sure you got those decimal points in. Why don't you go ahead and pause the video for just a moment and decide what you're going to do to solve these equations. And as soon as you know the answer, and maybe even go ahead and write them down if you're taking notes, and then check back, and we'll do them together. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, decide what has to be done to both of these equations, and if you're feeling confident, go ahead and do it. All right.
Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. So the first one, to get rid of the plus 4.3, what's the opposite of that, Ben?
4.3 is negative.
Right. I want to get rid of 4.3, so I'm going to subtract 4.3. We always start on the variable side because we want that to go away. Now, if I do that on the left, what do I have to also do?
On the right.
Got to do it on the right too, and line up nice and carefully. There's no reason you don't line this up because you can actually show the carries right here. I'll switch to let's switch to red. I can't take 3 away from 1. So let's go ahead and borrow from the 9, and that'll give it 11 minus 3 is 8, and 8 minus 4 is 4, and the decimal lined up, and so I get x equals 4.8. Now, let's check and see if that works. If I put it in, does 4.8 plus 4.3 equal 9.1?
Yep.
Yes, it does. All right, so we'll switch back to white now. The second one, we're going to get rid of 1.8 by subtracting it. Again, let's line up our decimals nice and neat here. This cancels out nicely, giving me W on the left side. Think of the teeter-totter. I took 1.8 pounds off the left, so I take 1.8 pounds off the left. And make sure you put that little minus sign in. Again, I can't take 8 away from 6, so I got to do a little borrowing here. So that's actually going to be 10. Might as well rewrite the whole thing. And this will be 16 minus 8, which is 8. And I can't take 1 away from 0. But if the 1's right there. I really have 10 minus 1, which is 9. Yeah, Ben's right. So 9.8, and sure enough, if I add 9.8 times or plus 1.8, I will get 11.6. All right, let's just do a couple more of these real quickly. And again, why don't you pause the video now, and this time do try to solve all 3 of these equations on your own. And when you're done, go ahead and press play, and we'll do them together. Make sure you did them right.
Show all work.
Yeah, good point. Thank you, Ben. All right, pause now. Okay, you should have done those on your own. So what you have for the next solutions, here, Ben's going to walk you through this. First one, what do we do?
H minus, 53.
So add it.
Add 53.
Add 53, yep.
Then add 53 to the other side.
So we're going to add 53 to both sides. It cancels out there. I get H equals, I think that's going to equal 91.
Yeah.
All right, the next one?
Next one is positive 43.
And
Plus
if I do it there,
12.
I've also got to do it over here. Do it on both sides. It cancels out. And we get x equals, what, 55?
55, yeah.
And check, and sure enough, that works, and that works too. And the last one
is
what do I do to both sides?
We add 6.4.
Right, add 6.4. And I don't have a ton of room over here, so I'm going to kind of squeeze that in right there.
Yeah.
And I put my line underneath, and I add it up. That cancels out, and I get k equals, well, that's easy. What's 0 plus 6.4?
6.4.
Right. In fact, that's an example of the additive identity property we were just talking about, where if you add a number to 0, it doesn't really do anything to the number. It just stays the same number. Okay? So that is exactly what we're talking about. All right, so that's going to conclude this video. We're going to try to keep it under 10 minutes. So this video has been brought to you by Greg and Ben. So thank you very much for tuning in. I actually can't read my name at all. So here, let's just fix that. Let's try that one more time. The Greg and Ben Show. Take care, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.